Hey everybody, welcome to Kimmel's Irish Pub. Time for another movie review. Tonight's movie, White Boy Rick. So this is about a teenage boy in the 1980s who becomes an undercover informant for the FBI, but then ultimately gets arrested for drug trafficking and sentenced to prison. So, I don't know, kind of tells you everything there, but I guess it's a good story. That's what it, well, I guess that's what the story is. 6.5 on IMDb. I thought this was a much better, it was very well advertised. This one I knew about, I'm excited to see, but low ratings kind of scare me. Matthew McConaughey, love the dude, alright. Richie Merritt, I don't recognize him from his picture. Jennifer Jason Leigh, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then Roy Cochran, I don't know if you know him. Empire Records is the first time I've ever been graced by his acting skills, and I've seen him in other things since. So that's where we are, that's what we're going to watch. That's why you're here to see. I'll get into it and see what really the plot is about. I'll come back and catch you up and tell you if it's any good. Stick around. Hey everybody, I want to do a quick check-in. We're watching White Boy Rick. We're at the 43-minute, 21-second mark. It's interesting, but there's holes. There's holes. I don't understand it completely yet. Let me share with you what I do know. So White Boy Rick, who is our main character, is the son of Matthew McConaughey's character. So basically what they do is they go to gun shows, buy guns, and then put silencers on them or put something else on them and then sell them more expensive. So that's their racket there. They have a sister as well who's kind of mixed up in a bad crowd. She moves out. Insignificant at this point so far. But that's really what they do. You know, they just resell guns, and I think they have a license to do it or whatever, so there's nothing really illegal. There are, whatever. There are, making the silencer is the illegal part of it. White Boy Rick goes to one gang, and a group of guys appear to be a gang, and he sells them the guns and the silencer with them for a lot of money, which is great. And then somehow from that transaction, he gets in with that gang. You don't see much else. Like, he's invited to weddings. So you don't see the development of his friendship with this gang. If you see one sale, they ask him to come to a roller rink, which was funny, because I remember the roller rink in the 80s, but it wasn't like this. They went to like roll bounce. Not where we went. We went around in a circle and not roll bounce dancing. So he went there, he met, found out who a couple of people were, but then that was it. Everything else, he's in. Okay, so he's in, he's sharp. He's in with this gang. I don't know how. Meanwhile, some cops, Jennifer Jason Leigh and Roy Cochran, are the cops, and they've been following these guys around. And then they put a little pressure on Matthew McConaughey, saying, "You made these silencers. You can go away for 10 years, but help us identify these people." And it happens to be the people White Boy Rick is hanging with right now. So of course nobody tells on him, but then they meet up with him later. And basically they get him involved in drugs. So first they give him money, tell him to go buy drugs. That's it. You don't see what happens after that. He goes and buys the drugs, end of story. Then they give him like a brick of drugs, and they ask him to go ahead and sell it so he can build up credit in himself. And become credible, whatever. So he does that. But you don't see a lot of that. It's just like the beginning, but he still continues to hang out with this gang. The one guy questions him in the gang, says, "I know what you're doing." He's going to houses. So what I think he's trying to say is he's selling drugs to different houses down in Detroit. This all takes place in Detroit, and that he shouldn't be doing that. So he doesn't know that he's doing it for the cops at this point. Now the cops haven't asked him for any information or anything like that, but that's where where we are. So I don't know how the relationship develops. I don't know what's going on with the drugs and the cops and giving him all this stuff. I get it. They're trying to get him in so that he can turn on them, but the development isn't here. So we're not even halfway through yet, but I could see why now maybe the scores are a little bit low, because it's not as thorough as it should be. But that's just me. I'll get back into it a little bit more. If it gets any interesting points, I'll stop and give you that update. If not, I'll wait till the credits and I'll tell you what I think, and I won't spoil it for you, even though I think the synopsis already does. And one thing I failed to mention, I think we all know, but this is based on a true story. So one of my favorite types of movie is based on a true story. So we'll see where it goes from here. So stick around. I'll be back. Hey everybody, we're at the credits of White Boy Rick. And I tell you what, there's a good story there. You know, once you get to the end of it and it kind of all comes together a little bit for you, it's much better. But I think they, in my opinion, kind of, as I had been saying before, they left some parts out. Some things could have been done better, and I'm not sure whose fault that is. I'm assuming the writer, whoever wrote this, did a fantastic job, and I think it was all there on paper. And then when it goes into the film, and maybe it was filmed the first time well, and it was cut up. I mean, it was almost a 2-hour movie. Maybe they needed more time. I don't know. I just felt that they should have added depth in certain spots that they didn't. They glossed over a lot of things, which made it hard for you to invest yourself into the film. You know, and you know, like I'll reiterate myself, but really quick. His ties with the gang. How did he get in there? You know, there's very little bit there. There's nothing, you know, that makes me believe he was really involved with them. His involvement with the FBI and doing things like that is really just skimmed over in the first part. And essentially what happens is he gets skimmed over, and I don't want to spoil any part of the movie for you, but you know, that's what the thing says. He was an informant. Not portrayed. The only reason I know he was an informant is what they said here. At no point in this movie did he inform on anybody. Like I said, he did like a couple of drug deals for them. That was it. Nobody gets busted or anything like that. So it's really skimmed over. And then, you know, gets away from that for whatever reason, goes down the road, and then he starts dealing drugs again to make some money. You know, and again, that's in the synopsis, and it does happen in that order. He's the informant. And then deals drugs, and then they bust him for that. And you know, and what happens there after that? I think it's all there. It is all there. They just either left it on the cutting room floor, and that's where I was going with this. Is it the director's fault or the producer's fault? I don't think it's the writer's fault. I guarantee if we pull that script, it's there. I think, and I think at some point somebody misguided it and either ran out of time or had a different vision than what I was looking for. I enjoyed the acting from White Boy Ricky, whatever. I liked him. You know, I think this is the first one. It might have been just introducing him. I liked him. Matthew McConaughey was good. Nothing spectacular. He's Matthew McConaughey in this type of role. He's a really great actor. So there's, you know, no disrespect to him. He was still great, but normal great. You know, so that was good. And the stories there, they just didn't tell it well enough. They just didn't do that. And that's why I bet you they're getting 6s and stuff like that. So that's my thought on this film. Definitely worth watching. Interesting story. You want to see what happens here. They hook you up at the end with the blurbs on the screen to let you know what's happened after the movie, which is a must, unless, you know, the movie has a full conclusion, which of course this one doesn't. So what happens after the movie, it's all there. So that makes it better. No real footage, but that's okay. I could look past that. Otherwise, oh, real quick, one thing that interesting fact that I didn't realize back then, and they talk about it in the movie when the gang he's with, you know, says, hey, we find out what you're doing, and they think he's dealing drugs to houses, and the guy says 650. I didn't understand what that meant, but evidently in Michigan in this era, that if you're caught dealing 650 grams of drugs, I don't know if it's of coke or probably cocaine or whatever, 650 grams, and you're caught, it's mandatory life in prison. So that's interesting, you know, and I get that now. So so there you have it. There's my review. Rambled on a little bit, but I think it's worth it. Check this movie out. Let me know your thoughts on it. It's a must watch, but understanding there are some holes, there's a lack of depth, and it's a shame they had all that time and they didn't do it. Maybe there's some other way to do it. Anyway, sorry. I'd love to hear from you. Hit comments, type in something, then hit the like button. And if you haven't hit subscribe, hit subscribe. And tune in again at Kimmel's Irish pop.